What's going on, everybody? Princeton Clark here with another episode of Evolved Mastery. Guys, I have a lot of new episodes that are on the way, new interviews, several new interviews, and some new topics that I'm going to be discussing. Also, a lot of new updates with Evolved Mastery, with Princeton Clark coaching, and everything that I'm doing to build out new programmings for certifying coaching in the spaces of self-mastery to help other people who truly want to master their life, also assist other people in mastering their lives to really live a purposeful cause out in a way that it creates impact, and together we all impact the world in a very special way. But that and so many other things are on the way as well. But guys, today I have a special guest. As you guys know, all of my guests are special guests, but this is my brother, my friend, and a very powerful divine soul connection, my brother, Jaramy Eugene Wilson. Jaramy has been a strategic business advisor, self-mastery expert, and soul alchemist for over 20 years. He's mentored over 15,000 people, guys, especially entrepreneurs. But the thing that I love about Jaramy is, aside from the accolades and creating and helping people generate 7 to 8 figures of revenue in their different companies and being the co-founder of the Light Army, he's a rising icon that elevates other icons and accelerates them on their journey. He's just a powerful individual with a powerful purpose to create impact. And we had a very special conversation in this interview, and we basically gave birth to something that we want to offer that's very special. So listen to the podcast, stay tuned to the end, and without further ado, we're going to go ahead and dive into this podcast, guys. Welcome to this episode of Evolved Mastery.
I have the patience in my soul, 'cause I know that it's worth it. These affirmations let me know that I'm already perfect. I once say yes I am. 100 miles up, say yes I can. Is it all love? Say yes I am. Yes I am. Yes I am. I once say yes I am. 100 miles up, say yes I can. Is it all love? Say yes I am. Yes I am. Yes I am. It's my life, so I tell me I'm alright, and it helps me realize that I'm wealthy, rich in passion, rich in magic. It's my life, so I tell me I'm alright, and it helps me.
Welcome, Evolved Mastery family. Princeton Clark here, back with, as I said, another amazing guest, my brother Jaramy Wilson in the building. Guys, as I said, this is one of those people that I say they're once in a lifetime connections, people that you meet and that they are just a part of your soul tribe. You see the journey that they've been on. You see the wisdom that they've gained. You see the innocence in the process of returning to that inner child, to play full out, to shine bright in their lives, but to take that light into the playground of this life experience. And we can get into all the accolades and the levels of business, as I mentioned. But today we're just going to have, and you guys will see, we're just going to have a free-flowing conversation about self-mastery, evolving through this life that we call this journey, the spiritual journey. And he's going to share a bit of his journey. But Jaramy, welcome. It's so good to have you here, brother.
Honored to be here, my man. Such a pleasure. And I know when the power that you hold and the power that I hold combine, we're gonna light some people's souls on fire today. So I'm excited to be here, brother.
Yes, sir, man. So we're going to dive right into it, guys. And I want to be here, as I say, for a good time, not for a long time. But with Jaramy and I, sometimes we get going and it might be an hour and a half, 2 hours, but we're going to try to keep it under an hour for you guys today, because I know he's a busy guy, but he's a guy that's in flow and a guy in focus. But Jaramy, I always tell the listeners in podcast land, this podcast, when I bring people on, they're different people from different walks of life. We didn't start where we are, but we gained a lot of wisdom on the journey. And so I'd love for you to just share a synopsis of your story, the work that you've done, what's brought you to this point, because we didn't start off being fully aware, or maybe we did. Before I say that, maybe as children, we were completely aware of our light, but then we went into the world and we lost sight of it. But starting in this journey for you, give us a walkthrough of who Jaramy is and share a little bit of your story with us.
Yeah, I'm so glad for the opportunity, man. A lot of people know me for the success I've created in business for myself and other people. And so most people assume I've always been this guy. A lot of people meet me and they meet the shiny smile and the bubbly guy with charisma and humor and intelligence, a great speaker. But I wasn't always this guy. And most people deserve to know that I was raised from very humble beginnings. I know what it is truly like to define coming from nothing. I was born and raised in Montucky, right? I'm from Montana originally. Still go back and forth, have a home there. However, I was raised in John Wayne culture, where masculine energy was not defined by sharing your emotions or being an empathic human, let alone talking about soul and woo and God. It was seen as a weakness. And so I was blessed to be born in that environment, because from the moment I was born, I was able to see through a set of lenses, and I recognized something I felt inside was not aligned with the outside world and the people I was being raised with, right? That conditioning never really fit or stuck from a very early age. And, whether it was being raised to be a warrior and being able to rub dirt in it, or be a fighter, or shoot the deer, gut the deer, and learn to suppress those emotions, I realized at a really early age that most people are suppressing their truth. And it was when I was 4 years old, I went through my first near-death experience. I flatlined a handful of times in this plane, and I drowned, and I was revived. I was dead for almost 30 minutes, and I literally had to relearn how to walk in a hospital room. And so my journey started then on my recovery of that. Ultimately, I remember the first few days of being in the hospital as just a young kid looking back, and I've done a lot of work on this as an adult as well, because I did suppress a lot of these memories for a long time before I recognized that they served me, before I recognized that there was a message and a very specific level of gratitude I found early on that gives me this ability to show up with light, no matter what pain, no matter what challenges or resistance or trauma that I've experienced and that others have, that there's an awareness. And that awareness first set in for me a few days into that hospital. I couldn't walk on my own. I could barely move. I was recovering from serious brain damage from drowning. And I remember hearing the people come visit me. And I remember the doctors and nurses, "Oh, that poor boy. Oh, I feel so bad for him." And I remember just being bathed in pity, in sympathy, in victim mentality from the people around me. And a turning point for me way back then was contemplating this and laying in a hospital bed. And I remember just looking out the window and noticing the trees blowing with the breeze and the leaves moving and the sun shining through the window, casting shadows upon the room. And I remember a peace fell over me then, very early on, age 4. Holy shit. Wow. This is holy. This is divine. We are alive. Right? All of us that are here are here. Every heart that's beating is beating right now. And so I immediately developed a perspective, a viewpoint of just natural response to that environment, and recognizing that, man, this is a gift. This is a blessing. And it doesn't matter. No, not poor little boy. What a blessed man, right? Living through this child experience of recognition of our mortality. And so my story, although that's where I had the first turning point, I just became addicted to want to know the truth of our existence. You and I have had some pretty deep conversations. That existential longing began then. However, through a series of other near-death experiences and quote-unquote traumas that occurred in my life, I learned that one of the greatest lessons on this journey, whether I look back to those or I look at the challenges in my life now, as a father of 3 kids, married to a woman I've been with for 20 plus years, mortality is imminent, right? We are going to die at some point. All of us, every listener listening to this, we are dust in less than 100 years. Now that's debatable because technology may allow us to live a couple hundred years, right? They've said that the first person to live 200 years is probably alive right now with technology, and we've got Neuralink and all sorts of cool breakthroughs in biotechnology. But my point is, regardless, if you just recognize in any moment this concept that the ancient Greeks placed in concrete, memento mori, right? If you're just always aware that we are here and we are alive, that you can operate with more gratitude, more focus, more presence, and more importantly, you recognize that the day that you are in the dirt and your tombstone sits as a sedimentary symbol of your life, that it is the compassionate contribution, the actual impact you make here that matters most. And yes, our time is limited, but that's my story. And I could share, I've been in some near-death experiences, getting hit by cars on my motorcycle several different times. And I've had some physical traumas. I've also had some amazing wins and been able to bring more light into the world and experience more gratitude, more love, more fucking happiness, to be real, just by recognizing that from that young age. And so I would say my story is one of going from humble beginnings. I was born with that country upbringing, but I've always had a city mind. I've always seen the world through the eyes of what I call light. And because I was able to see that light filtering through the window all the way back to when I was a kid, every day I rise and that sun's still out. We have yet to find Earth anywhere else. We've yet to find the ability to live off planet because we haven't found a place that the air you breathe in the atmosphere is 20% oxygen, where the sun hits half the globe enough to sanitize with UV light and provide full spectrum for us to see, provide this infrared light for our cells to duplicate and for us to have this existence, this kingdom of heaven, this Garden of Eden known as Earth. And so my point is really simple. I've come from a story of, although I've created massive success, I've helped a tremendous amount of people from scratch or go from good to great and scale their businesses to 8, 9-figure valuations and exits, that it really comes down to your recognition in the present moment, no matter what we're talking about, whether it's our relationships, our relationship with ourself, whether it's our business, whether it's self-development, fitness, any topic we touch. The pain you feel is the love you withhold. And we have all this beautiful blessing of light here on this planet. And so my story, my journey is one of recognition that we are the light. And although it sounds a little woo-woo, and I want to shift it back to here in a moment, like, yes, some of my favorite topics are branding, marketing, sales, systems, processes, identity, culture, automating your business to create EBITDA value that becomes something that's no longer just a job you've created for yourself and self-employment, but something you can scale and exit. That's my zone of excellence. My zone of genius, and if you can't tell, my passion is soul science. And not just the soul in theory, the science that actually validates that whether you believe in spirit or soul, we're all transmitting this electrical energy, and we are in exchange with that energy, the sun, the earth, the sky, the heavens, the moon, and the stars. And you can leverage that science, the evidence, the proof, the systems I've found that overlap. It can allow you to make more money. It can allow you to reduce mental and emotional stress inside and live a happier, more satisfying life. And so my story reflects that. And I'm not free of challenge. I've taken risks that haven't always led to rewards other than lessons, right? I've had some big losses. I've lost a lot of money. I've screwed up a lot of relationships. I left scorched earth in the past. But all of it comes back to this story of pain to power, dark to light, and recognizing inside that each one of us is like this meat sack battery, as cheesy as it might sound. Like I said, it doesn't matter if you believe in spirit or soul. Science has proven we are all transmitting this electrical voltage. We are all surrounded and have influence over and influenced by this toroidal energy field. And we have control, we have agency, we have free will over that. And regardless of whether you're behind prison walls or you're living in a penthouse that's multi-million dollars, our satisfaction, our enjoyment, the influence that we're able to have on the world and the people around us is determined by that light. And so that's my story. My story is one from the mind and the emotions into the world of soul.
Man, you said so much right there that I'm just like, man, where do I even start first? Because it is such a beautiful journey, right? Like, we get to live this life, but you have to first learn to see life as what it truly is. And we have, as you said, I love that you hit on this, the free will. A lot of times in religion and stuff, they talk about how God gives us free will. People will ask the question, why does God do this? Why does God do that? Understand God is the energy, the source of all things. Paul said in Romans, you can clearly see God in all things, but instead you ignore this aspect of God and you create a God in your own image, after your own likeness, after the image of corruptible man, four-footed beasts and creeping things. He literally smacked every religion with that one statement. God is in all things. You don't see God in all things, but you've been given the will, ultimately coming back to the original statement, the very essence, like, you are God, I am God. I am an extension of consciousness expressing itself in form. And we have the free will to utilize that energy however we choose. And depending on coming from a creative, powerful state, depending on how we utilize that energy is going to determine what we manifest in the dominion that we've been given in our worldly kingdoms, personally, professionally, relationally, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And that's just powerful. As a young kid, realizing and being able to see, wait, this is life. This is a gift. I don't know. I don't know what they're talking about. Poor me, poor who? I'm still alive. I still get to experience this life. You could have chosen, and yeah, you were only 4, but I believe children are super wise. I believe we program them out of that wisdom, and then they spend the rest of their lives finding their way back to it because of that misguidance, or that, as Don Miguel Ruiz says, that domestication. We domesticate them. You got to be like this, think like this, feel like this, see yourself like this, feel about yourself like this. But you were able at an early age to see the external world. You were able to feel through the external world and observe it. And even though we may not have been able to fully comprehend how that would translate into the will that you would be given at this stage of your life and what that would lead into, that's a very powerful beginning. And I think, or whether I know, not I think, I know that's what makes you so powerful in the space of soul science, is because I don't believe you can teach something unless you live it. And from day one of meeting you, whether we were talking business, whether we were talking relationships, whether we were talking overcoming challenges or facing different obstacles in life, no matter what space we spoke in, we were always speaking from the root, from the base of soul science. How are we illuminating and aligning with the very essence of our creative power to manifest what we want to manifest? And what are we giving meaning to? And so I want to dive into that a little bit when it comes to soul science, the creative power that we have, because I think a lot of people will glaze over it. Yeah, you create your own reality. What does that really mean? And so I want to pose that question to you when we start talking about creating your own reality from the essence of soul science. I want to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, man, I love this topic. And like I said, I come from a little less woo-woo perspective than most people. Like most people, and I'm not trying to classify in stereotype, but let's be real. Most people that talk about manifestation, most people that talk about soul, most people that talk about spirit and being an illuminated being, they're either over-indoctrinated in religion, or they're spiritually ignorant, or they're spiritually arrogant, and they don't tie enough proof and science to it. And so some of my favorite teachings that have come out over the last 10, 15 years pair all this stuff together. One, we've got Heart Math Institute that's proven not only are we transmitting this electrical frequency, your head is transmitting an electrical frequency, your heart is transmitting electrical frequency, and you're either sending a signal from your head to your heart, or you're sending a signal from your heart to your head, up from the gut, the vagus nerve, and boom. And it's called coherence. There's a coherent state where the thoughts in your head and the frequency here agree with the frequency here. It can be felt. What's more important than right now? If you're listening right now, what's the answer to that question? What's more important than right now? Anytime you ask that question?
Nothing.
Can you feel the answer in your body come to your head? Nothing. Feel it. What's more important than right now? Feel that answer rise from within. That is a coherent state. In fact, there's really cool biofeedback. I used to spend thousands of dollars on biofeedback to validate this stuff. Now you can go on heartmathinstitute.com, buy one of their inner balance meters. They've got even more advanced ones. They're like $200. There's an app you get on your phone. You can sit here and in real time see the biofeedback, right? I can show you, like, here's a review of, you can see whether you're in a coherent state, your heart rate variability. This stuff is easily measured. So that's one side of it. But then you have teachings like Bruce Lipton, who was an atheist when he wrote the book Biology of Belief. And he was studying stem cells. A stem cell, for those of you who don't know, it's a cell that is neutral. It is a cell that has not yet been imprinted with what kind of cell it's going to be. Is it going to be an eye cell? Is it going to be a brain cell? Is it going to be a skin cell? And one of my favorite parts of that teaching, recognize this concept beyond epigenetics. Epigenetics and neuroplasticity, if you guys aren't familiar with, that's the ability through our awareness to actually create influence over our own genes, shape our telomeres, the ability to reduce aging just through intent. But the study of biology belief is morphogenetics. And morphogenetics, if you do a little research, what Bruce Lipton found is human intent is the most powerful substance on planet Earth. If you take a stem cell in a petri dish and you imagine with the human will and intent, that stem cell is a heart cell, guess what? In the lab, scientifically, it turns into a heart cell. If you imagine it's an eye cell. Our intention is transmitting this electrical energy, and it's almost like a holographic world we live in. That energy, although you can't see that light with your eyes, because all our eyes see is 40% of the spectrum. The sun's transmitting a massive spectrum. We're only influenced by this little tiny bit of it because the Earth shields us from the harmful radioactive and all these other frequencies that would actually decimate life on Earth. And we are also transmitting light you can't see with the eyes. And that light, that energy, that neutrino influence on our environment around us has been also really well documented by Dr. Emoto. I know you're familiar with Dr. Emoto. You take 3 plants. You tell one, I love you. You tell one, I hate you, and you ignore the third. The one you tell, I love you, thrives. The one you tell, I hate you, it doesn't do so well. And the one you ignore dies. And so human intention has been proven to have this morphogenetic influence on our environment. And so if you think about that, human beings are living creatures. And we're living in this collective vibration and frequency, right? And yeah, there is actual evidence to show that those 3 things I just shared, heart consciousness, heart math, the ability to recognize you're a light being transmitting this electrical energy and have influence over your outer environment, have influence over your head. It is time for you to realize you have something inside of you more powerful, more miraculous than the things that affect you and make you dance like a puppet. That's one of my favorite quotes by the ancient Roman emperor, Marcus Aurelius. So it's my absolute favorite because when you understand this, you no longer have to be a puppet of your thoughts and reacting in a non-conscious way. You no longer have to be a puppet of your emotions, reactive to every state of the ego and those demons that quote unquote haunt most people. You have control to be the soul in control. You have that agency, you have that will to influence your thoughts, to influence your emotions, and be the beacon. So last thing I'll share related to this, oxygen. Right now, blow it out. Blow out the birthday candles. Receive. Smell the roses. When you breathe in, that light field expands. And just like the surface of the sun, Google Kirlian photography, Kirlian. Kirlian photography. You will see that the body is transmitting this electrical light that can be measured. And just like the surface of the sun, when you see all of this energy transmitting, we're transmitting energy. And when you breathe in, that light field expands. And when you aren't conscious of your breath and you're breathing shallow, that light field retracts. And so that influence of morphogenetic consciousness around us, morphogenetic influence, changes and shapes not only our cellular function, the way we look, the way we feel, the way we think, the way we act, the way we make decisions, but it influences everything in our outer world. And man, even as I'm saying this to you, it just gives me recognition of our spiritual power on this earth. And it is validated by science.
Yeah.
Come on, how amazing is that?
I believe that through soul science, we become more aware of how to move from this intentional now, this intentional power. And this is where we begin to unlock the miraculous, or what the world perceives as miraculous. But yeah, continue, man. Go ahead, because you know how we go.
No, I love this, man. You're getting me lit up, and you've sparked all sorts of things inside here. And that concept of ruh, right? Spirit in animated form is our reception and delivery of breath. So to live an inspired life, go study that word inspired. Inspire means, it means to add breath to add oxygen to. And so everything in your environment, right? Whether it's sight, sound, touch, taste, smell, thoughts, and feelings, your reaction to all of those things external of you and internal of you, you're either a puppet or you're the master. And so my point here is really simple. Most people forget that the mind tricks the body and the body tricks the mind. The mind tricks the body and the body tricks the mind. You think a thought that creates stress and fear, a fear-based thought of a potential scenario, of worst case scenario. That's why we're apex predators, because there's a beautiful part of us known as the left brain connected to the amygdala that's scanning our environment for danger, sharp edges, lions, tigers, bears. And in the modern world, it's a whole lot of different dangers we're looking for. But when we are in that state, the body doesn't know the difference between a perceived danger in the future or right now. But the biggest key, if you study the emotional frequency scale and you actually run a little biofeedback, you see some real-time feedback, how that's influencing your breathing patterns, your heart rate variability, and your internal coherence, that every emotion has a coinciding breathing pattern tied to it. So to live inspired means to ultimately have control over your breathing patterns. Like I said, the mind tricks the body, but guess what? The body tricks the mind. So if you're feeling shame, doubt, worry, depression, suicide, and anxiety is at an all-time high in our world right now. And most people, when they're feeling depressed or they're feeling shame, they're feeling guilt, they're feeling these low vibration frequencies, they're feeling bad, they forget that you're just breathing in the bottom of your lungs. You're not bringing in spirit and ruha. You're not living inspired. You're living in the bottom of your lungs. Just one of those days. And you just breathe in the bottom of your lungs. So there's a lot of people are like, take a deep breath. Where are you going to take a deep breath to? Back to your home frequency? No, you're a puppet. When you're angry and you're frustrated and you're fearful, you're breathing in the top of your lungs. You're not bringing in the spirit. You're not animating and filling yourself with vibrant energy that you're transmitting to the world. You have nothing to give and you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't offer inspiration and influence if you can't offer inspiration and influence over yourself first. And so this concept is so simple that most people will not do it. The brain and the ego really loves to feel smart, but we were planted with these really simple principles, whether it's biblical, it's self-development principles have been really well documented by some of the greats that have gone before us the last 100 years, or you actually study the data of science. It all says the same thing. Your happiness, your satisfaction, your enlightenment, a feeling of ascended consciousness, all is tied most to our breathing patterns. And so if you can just recognize that in of itself, if you want to live an inspired life, recognize that you have control over your pneuma, your breath, your ability to exhale and receive that oxygen. There's only one cause of death, Princeton. You know what it is? A lack of oxygen to the brain. Whether you're cut, you get a disease, you die, whatever it is. 1931, you got to be careful talking about this shit, but Dr. Otto Warburg, he found a cure for cancer in 90% of all disease. Go Google it. He won a Nobel Peace Prize in 1931, almost 100 years ago, because he discovered that our vitality, our health, and most disease is just caused from an acidic environment. And we're 70 to 90% volume water. What is water? On a 0 to 14 scale of oxygen-rich, pH-rich to acidic, water is a 7 pH. H2O. Hydrogen, 2 of those bad boys, 1 oxygen. Water is a 3rd oxygen. Outside of breath, if you want to own your health destiny, who here wants to be the person in control and owning their health destiny? If you want to take ownership over your health destiny, understand Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We know this when we go off planet. You can't live in outer space without these elements. Ownership, oxygen, water, nutrients that support oxygen and water. Energy, there's only 2 types of energy. Yeah, there's some other influences. Earth energy, sun energy. They've proven really important as it relates to our vitality. You got to get your feet in the soil, connect to the Earth's magnetism, ground yourself. Right? Isn't it funny? Even in you study electrical, you need a ground. You need something to ground. So there's a current energy. It's the sun. There's people joking about sunning their butthole and all these things, but the truth is, without sun in the eyes, without sun on the skin, and without light to see, we have no life here. And then last but not least, rest. Not to be confused with sleep. Your restoration of your body is determined by the quantity and quality of oxygen, water, nutrients, and energy in the system. And all the people that have been studied for being high vibrational saints, avatars, leaders that have projected more peace on the planet, they found that their breathing patterns, their oxygen, their cellular function just has a high efficacy of oxygen, water, nutrients, and energy. Sex. Once those things are fulfilled, let's say you're on an island somewhere, you get lost in the desert. You get lost in the desert, you're like, I need some water, right? Once you get water and you fill your belly at the oasis, now you're like, I'm hungry. I need nutrients. There's an order and a sequence of our motivation that drives our behavior, and it's first oxygen. That's why most people have sleep apnea these days. They're so stressed, they're not breathing, they go to bed. Now their body's, let's breathe, right? Sex, though, once all those things are fulfilled, our cells are like, man, we've got enough systems firing here that now we need continuity of life. Once that's fulfilled, can you think about anything else? Like, we live out here in Arizona a good part of the year. When you walk outside, it's 120, no matter what inspiration you got in your head and in your lungs, you walk outside and you're like, shit, I can't think about anything else. It's too hot. Same as when it's too cold. Our motives are to escape the pain of too hot, too cold. Isn't it funny as humans, out of the millions of Kelvin in the range of heat in our universe, that life has to exist just between this little range of about 55 and 75 degrees for humans to exist and live? Wild, right? Heat, ownership, SH, intestinal elimination. If right now, Prince and I were like, hey, I've got the answer to ascend right here. Here it is. Let me share it with you. If you got to take a leak, if you got to go pee, or you got to take a number 2 really bad, anything I share with you, your motive of thought and your process is fixed and focused on that. So your digestive system, let alone just the nature of having to go use the restroom, can limit your motives. That's a motive. But once that's fulfilled, any pain or pleasure you're experiencing supersedes any higher vibrational motives, let alone service. And like I said, I went on a little bit of a tangent here, but my biggest point I want to share is there's a system, there's a process, there's a sequence, there's a key. And science has given us evidence of these things. And we have a big enough sample over the last couple of years, couple hundred years. You got Hawkins' scale of emotion. You have Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We have heart math. We have all this evidence to prove that if you master your breath, you've mastered the rest. So last thing I'll say about this, because you got me fired up, it doesn't matter if you study the greats of the world, right? Like, performance pays. So if we're talking about performance and you're a janitor, or you're a pro basketball or football player, you're a coach, a consultant, maybe it's even just as a parent or with your spouse, with intimacy, your performance is always determined by your breath. Before you go on stage, your nervous system pictures worst case scenarios, causes you restriction. Biology belief is proven your cells are either in defense and repair, or they're in relax and shine. And so I really want the listeners to understand that the greatest thing you can do, whether you're listening to this from a spiritual perspective, you're a logical, proof-oriented urchin that needs the data. If you master your breath, you've mastered the rest. If you want more influence, it's not about how many followers you have. It's, can you be in the environment of the shadow of death and the destruction and the chaos around you and maintain that breath? So I want to share one last thing related to this, because I lived in Sedona for quite a few years, and I hired this mentor when I moved there. His name was Victor, and he, big white beard, Gandalf looking dude. He had Parkinson's, so he'd shake a little, but he's a psychic for 40 years and a super highly spiritual intuitive. And I remember going and sitting with this guy for the first time. I was just sitting like, what's up, man? Hey. He was like, Jaramy, you need to relax. I was like, I'm just sitting here. No, I'm in prison. He's like, no, man, you're not. And it was like one day with this guy, and I recognized that I could master peace. And that was one of the reasons I lived in Sedona. I didn't want to do the Hollywood lifestyle. I didn't want to do LA and New York and all this stuff. It was too hyper stimulating. And I was so committed to nature, and I wanted to raise my family in a non-stimulating, not overstimulating environment, raise them with that. It was a few months later, I had really applied these principles I'm speaking about today, just relaxing my nervous system, even in the face of chaos and the constant fires we put out as entrepreneurs. And then he said something to me powerful in another coaching session. He said, Jaramy, you are one of the most Zen people I've coached, and you are amazing mastering these processes, but can you be a monk in the mall? I was like, what do you mean? He said, it's easy to be a monk on a mountain. I want you to go to the mall next time you're down in the valley. I want you to get off the escalator at the bottom of the escalator, and I want you to stand in everybody's way and let people be frustrated with you. Like, why is this guy standing in the way at the bottom of the escalator? And can you master your breath and your peace in a place of chaos and projections and judgments and anger and frustration? And guess what? 80% of the world we live in, people are living beneath the frequency of 200 out of a 1,000-person scale. They're living in fear. They're living in anger. They're living in sadness. And it's not that you and I don't experience those emotions. But back to my point, if you master your breath and you're not in a reactive state of your nervous system and how we're wired as humans, you can live a joyful, inspiring, satisfying life. And back to my point of influence, you can have more influence over yourself and others and bring more peace to this place. And I believe that's our purpose here. To help people see this world's our playground. And in the face of death, disaster, discomfort, and danger, we can actually be that fountain of positive energy for other people and ourselves. Mm-hmm. So, man, we could do this all day, but it really does come back to what you said, faith versus fear. Right. And faith to me is the knowing that I have free will and control over my experience here on earth, regardless of conditions. And I don't have to live as the reactionary state of our evolutionary biology that helped us become apex predators on this planet. I can utilize that, leverage that, and be in peace, be whole.
Yeah, 100%, man. So good. And I know we're coming up on the hour here soon, but man, so much meat here, guys. But ultimately in the breath, we find presence, right? We find presence. People talk about God, and I say God is love, and they that walk in love are one with God. I always go back to that, and I rest in that, because in love, we find complete presence, but we find complete presence in the peace of the breath, of the knowing of the now. And when we can slow down and just be present in the moment and breathe. I love that he challenged you, be a monk in the mall. Can you be out in the space of the world, illuminated with such presence in the now, that you are unbothered by it, that you illuminate to such a degree that people notice there's something different about you? Because 9 times out of 10, if you go to a mall, say you see a real monk and he's dressed how he's dressed, and we've been programmed that this is an enlightened being. So if you were to dress like a monk, walk to the mall, people are just going to, they're just going to know something's different. He's one of those peaceful people. But real power, and something that I've come to find, and I see it around you as well, a lot of the times I go to spaces and I got to this point where I own my power, or I co-create with the power of the divine in presence, no matter where I go. And 9 times out of 10, if we're ever around, unless you start a conversation with me, I'm typically very quiet, because I'm just in the now. But the moment you get me going, if you flip the light switch, we're going to shine on, baby. You know how we do. But it's one of those things like, can you be present in the moment? To all the listeners out there, I don't know what you may be experiencing in your life. Maybe you've been so in your head, focusing on business and focusing on your relationships or the lack thereof, focusing on what you've been through and all the quote unquote traumas and the dramas and the experience. But I want you to take a moment right now, and I want you to just blow all the oxygen out of your lungs. And then I want you to inhale as deeply as you can, not into your chest, but into your abdomen. And I want you to just hold that breath. Imagine that breath cleaning your insides, cleaning your body, revitalizing your energy. And I want you to release that breath. And I just want you to say thank you in this moment. So often we live through these lives, and you may be doing that right now. And I want you to continue to do it as we're continuing this podcast. But breathe deeply in this moment. Get connected to your body. You know, the world sees you, your lives see you. If you're a mother, father, sister, brother, cousin, whatever roles you're playing in your life, the world sees the role. But as I always say, Princeton is not the it. Princeton is the conduit. I am the it. I am the I am of all that is, in all that is, expressing itself in form. And I get to express myself through this idea of Princeton. You get to express yourself in each breath through this idea that you present to the world. You get to choose. And you may have created an environment right now that feels unsteady. It feels out of alignment with what your soul truly desires. But I want to really start challenging you in the space of what Jaramy has been saying. And I want you to go back, look up some of the information that he shared, reach out to him. He's going to give you his information before we get off the podcast in a few more minutes. But we really got to start getting present. And Jaramy, I completely agree, man. If we could learn to be more present, get out of the noise. I've been talking about this a lot on the podcast lately. Get out of the noise, get back into yourself, into your heart, realizing what you are. You are a conduit of pure energy. You get to vibrate into different frequencies. You get to give power to different experiences. You get to illuminate the life that you are co-creating with the divine source, God, universe, whatever pronoun you want to use. But I want to really just go here, and I'm going to ask you another question, man. As you are taking this journey, as you have been taking this journey, what are some practices that you could give to people in being more present, that you've applied that have helped you be more present or more mindful in breath?
Yeah, so I think the biggest one just comes back to the core of human influence, right? There's two cores. One, our breath. There's nothing that influences our perspective, and you said it earlier in the call, the mind is a meaning-making machine, right? And so if you're in a high state of consciousness of your breathing and you have control over that, influences your state. The body tricks the mind. And if I'm breathing in this pattern, it starts creating thoughts that align with that frequency and that pattern. That's one. However, we're conscious. We are reactive and responsive beings. We're aware. Our eyes and feet point forward on purpose. Our antenna is up. Radar is on, looking for opportunity and avoiding obstacles. And so our brain, most people don't realize it. Everyone's heard the mind thinks 50 to 90,000 conscious thoughts a day and about 10x that super subconscious thoughts a day. But for entrepreneurs, 4x, 5x, 10x that number. I've been documented to have 350 to 500,000 thoughts a day. And most entrepreneurs have 200, 300, 400,000 or more thoughts a day. And it's interesting, but it's also powerful when you understand that our mind thinks in questions, right? It's why I love affirmations and I love incantations, but let's be real. Most often you're taught by some therapist or some person when you're angry to, no, I take a few deep breaths and say to yourself, I am peaceful, I am peaceful. Your mind's, are you really? No, you're a liar, bro. Right? And so what I found, whether it's with others, and you want to be a great speaker, a leader, a trainer, a coach, a guide to others, or you want to have self-mastery and a high internal emotional intelligence that questions direct focus of ourselves and other people. And so the tool I would love to share is not just one tool, but allow yourself to commit to the practice of asking higher quality questions to yourself and other people. I planted one at the beginning here. Yes, it takes a little work to pattern interrupt yourself, to get your attention. Michael Singer in Untethered Soul gives a little tool. I also learned some tools related to that when I did a bunch of NLP training. So I want to give you guys a tool right now. Pattern interrupt yourself with the word hello. What do we say when we answer the phone? What do we say when we meet someone? Hey, hi, hello. So use that word. Close your eyes right now for a moment and command your inner voice. Say silently inside your head, hello, hello, hello. Say it 7 to 21 times, like you're trying to get your attention outside of yourself. Those of you that have kids, dad, mom, hello, hello. Try it. Hear the voice inside your head. Notice you have control over it. Throw in a little profanity. Fucking hello. As entrepreneurs, we're dealing with stuff. It's easy to get distracted. I got this business, this person calling, this fire to put out. My kids want this. My wife wants this. I also want to go for a hike. It's nice outside. I want to go for a walk. I want to throw the football. There's a million things we want to do in our lives. We have a lot of needs we want to fulfill. And it's in those moments of distraction from the little red dots on your phone pulling you out of the awareness of your heart, your soul's, your body's desires. You require a commanding presence over that internal voice. Show yourself. Prove it right now. Hello, hello, hello. Earth to Jaramy. Fucking hello. Use your favorite flavor of profanity. This might sound weird, but it's a little lightning bolt to the nervous system. Throw in your own name. Hello, Princeton. Hello. Until you get this weird sensation. Everyone I've ever shared this with is like, what the heck, Jaramy? That's weird. Just try right now. Until you get the sensation of wanting to look over your shoulder as if it is someone outside you. And you're like, what? What do you need? You have my attention. You have to command your attention before you can apply an order, right? Or you can implant the order you were given from your intuition, the divine, the download. Hello, hello, hello. Earth to Jaramy, hello. And then back to influence number 1, exhale, exhale, exhale. Don't take a deep breath. If you blow all the oxygen out of your lungs all the way to the bottom, you pause, and your body's starved for oxygen because it's our number 1 supplier of life on this earth, you don't have to take a deep breath. Your body does it for you. It's natural motivation to receive, to breathe. And whisper to yourself. That's step 2. So hello, hello, hello. Princeton, your favorite flavor of profanity. Once you get that what, exhale, exhale, exhale. And on your full top of the breath, whisper to yourself or say silently inside yourself, be in your body. All of our intelligence, the core of our intelligence, proven by heart math, proven by a lot of other systems, it's intelligence in the body. A lot of people talk about mindset, and mindset matters, but body set is way more important. Our state of being matters more than anything else. Einstein said you can't solve a problem from the same state of being it was created or viewed from. So you have to shift your state of being, your breathing pattern. Exhale, exhale, exhale. Be in your body. Throw your own name in there. Externalize a little bit. Dissociate just a little in a healthy way. Be in your body, Jaramy. Be in your body. If things are running, our electrical system, get your fingers pink. Get those nerve endings tingling. Clap your hands a few times. Get up. Stomp your feet on the floor. Give yourself a little bit of that shin splint bone tingle feeling to where when you stop, those nerves are tingling if you're really distracted. First responders, military, a lot of people are taught these kind of principles. You'll see people in sports all the time. They're not just clapping their hands because they're like, woohoo. They're activating their nervous system. They're activating their electrical presence. And when I'm saying be in your body, I want you to bring all your attentions to your hand and your toes. And you can do this in a millisecond once you practice this enough. Sit in silence, practice it till you know the feeling. And like riding a bike, when I say be in your body and you bring all your attention into your body, into your toes, into your feet, and you supply it with oxygen in that moment, you will recognize your electrical body. If you've ever studied Reiki and the ability to influence that invisible energy you can't see with your eyes, but you can definitely influence, and there's tons of studies to prove that we have influence with that chi, that prana, that electrical, the neutrino energy we're transmitting, just like the surface of the sun, different set of lenses. Do you see that? Be in your body and you'll recognize that electrical body. And once you're here, and I know this might be a little more advanced for some of our listeners here, but I know you play in this arena. Now is the place we call ripe. Now it's the time to plant the seeds of the questions that matter most. Question number 1, our presence is distracted from our outside world. What is more important than right now? Feel the answer in your body. Your mind doesn't need to think. What is more important than this moment? Is there another moment? Anytime you ask that question, what's more important than right now? What matters more than this moment? Is there anything other than this moment? You find the divine. You recognize your life. You recognize your influence. You can supplant other questions. And I'll give just a couple more and flip it back because I know we're almost at the top of the hour. Right? One of my favorites is, what do I want? What do I want most? What do I want for the world I live in? What do I want for the people I care about the most? Asking those questions can get you out of your head and out of the window of our ego and our own desires. And you start to recognize that you have influence over the people in your life, over your bank account, over your health, over everything. What do I have to prove to myself or anyone else? Is this your emotion, Jaramy? Are these your desires? Are these your beliefs? Is this your knowing? What is most true? What is most real? But asking questions. Byron Katie, one of my favorite all-time mentors, healed a lot of stuff for me with her book, Loving What Is, and her programs tied to that. And if any of you here have ever had trauma in the past that you feel is holding you back, no matter how dark, or any of you here have elevated in income, you've elevated in influence, but you still have thoughts of judgment toward yourselves and others, you can't control those thoughts. You can check those thoughts, and you better check yourself before you wreck yourself. It's called self-inquiry. And she has a system called The Work. Her book, Loving What Is, really lays it out. Is that true? Can I know 100% certain that's true? Can I give verifiable evidence from multiple sources that's true? What's the opposite of that truth? How do I feel when I believe that truth? If I didn't believe that truth, if I didn't feel that fear, how would I show up? What would I do? Who would I be? How would I think? What decision would I make? And let me pull it back to right here, because, man, we deserve to do a second episode, but it doesn't matter what religion you believe in. But if you ask the question, if you imagine the most divine being that ever lived, whether you've read the Bible or any scripture, or whatever religion you believe in. What would Muhammad do? What would Buddha do? What would Jesus do? What would a higher version of me, a more evolved version of me do? Boom, the download comes. Inspiration, the right brain, that curiosity. And sometimes you got to activate it a little. I'm curious. I wonder, what would a more evolved version of me do? And that question, that influence, that tool can guide you beyond anything else I could probably share, because questions direct the focus of the conscious and the subconscious for yourself and other people. And beyond your breath, you can be the puppet master. You can be the soul in control. You don't have to be the reactive little meat sack to your thoughts and your emotions. You can guide and control your breathing, which affects your consciousness, which influences the morphogenetic field that you're influencing. And the questions you ask can direct you to a higher truth than the one that is held in the human mind. And it connects you to the truth here in spirit. So, man, I know that was a little bit of an advanced deep dive, but
nah, man, it's good. And for those of you who are in the audience, man, I'm just going to put this out there, Jaramy, because you and I have been talking about doing some stuff together for a while. And this conversation just, every time we talk, it just solidifies it. But I'd love to put together a program for those of you who are listening right now. If I can get 15 to 20 people to reach out to me in my DMs and on Instagram at Princeton Clark and say, if you'd like to rediscover or to tap into the power of presence, and you want to dive deeper into these concepts, these ideas of owning your power, taking your power back, so that you stop leaking power into the things that don't serve you and the things that don't deserve you, so that you can start empowering the things that elevate you and evolve you to really move in the most efficient version of you. If you want to dive deeper into these concepts, you want to ask more questions, maybe there's some things that were mentioned today and you're like, man, I wish there was a program where we could be mentored. Reach out to me. If I can get 20 people, Jaramy and I will put together a program to serve you, and we can do it really quickly. But we want to add value to what we're doing, because we understand that a lot of you who are listening, and Jaramy, I thank you so much, because you're right, we could go on, and we will have to bring this back to a second episode, because I know that we're going to create this program. I know that there's going to be people who reach out to me and they're like, if you guys put together that program, I want to be a part of it. I want to take my power back. I want to start igniting my breath and my spirit in the world. I want to start moving out of these prisons of mental escapes that I've created, that have kept me in bondage, that have kept me stressed out, that have kept me frustrated, that has kept me from creating happy, healthy, whole relationships, that has kept me in the place of poverty and lack. I'm ready to move into the space of power. I'm ready to move into the space of ownership. I'm ready to move in the space of flowing through my life like the divine water and fluid that I am in this creation space we call life. Guys, we're going to create this thing for you guys. But if 20 people, I need 20 people to reach out to me on Instagram at Princeton Clark. And Jaramy, how can they reach out to you if they have questions right now? What's the best way that they can reach out to you?
yeah, reach out to me on Instagram as well. I'm at Jaramy. My name's spelled a little different. It's Jaramy. Middle name Eugene. I go by my whole name. That's a whole nother episode. Soul contracts and your real name really matters. Jaramy Eugene Wilson. Jaramy Eugene Wilson, like the ball. At Jaramy Eugene Wilson on Instagram. You can shoot me a DM. Like Princeton just said, actually, I'm inspired. It's already done. I can remember the future. And as you said, I know that with all of my heart that it is a great idea for me and Princeton to offer you a vehicle to ignite and activate that system inside of you that gives you that confidence, that control, that emotional certainty to go live your calling, to answer your mission and realize you need nothing. You are more powerful than when we give you the levers and the buttons to push and the awareness to see beyond the eyes to access that. It will ignite your soul. People ask me what I do. Yeah, I help people scale businesses, and I love self-mastery and self-development. I love to give people a higher self-image and self-worth, just like Princeton does. But what I really do is I light souls on fire. You are this electrical animated, this avatar here. And if you could see it like we do, this is like a video game. And if just like on a video game, you see your little life meter going down and you watch yourself breathe and boop, they got energy to go complete the mission and answer the calling. Your mind doesn't need to make excuses. It doesn't need to blame the outer or inner world. And I would love the opportunity to light 20 to 30 souls on fire give you guys the practical solutions, tools that you can use in real life. I've invested a fortune into my self-development journey, and 80 to 90% of it was just a bunch of woo, hypey nonsense that had no practical application, and I wasn't able to use it. And so I know, similar to Princeton, we have created systems, processes, methods, frameworks that can be applied right now. And just like on this call, we can guide you through it in real time so you get to experience it for yourself. And when you've had that experience, everyone in your world notices before you do. It may be a 1%, 4%, 6% increase a day or per week, but the outer world recognizes that gap between them. It will help you not only navigate what to do with that personal power once you have it, but how to deploy it without distraction, with discernment, so that you can put it into use to the highest productive profitability in your business, your relationships, in the purpose and calling, so that you can know for certain that you are answering the call of your soul and that you're activated from a place of divinity to not just fulfill that mission, but inspire other people to do the same. So, man, that wasn't a part of the plan here, but I see it done. I remember the future, and this has been a long time coming. So I'm grateful for you having me on the podcast today, but I'm even more looking forward to the souls who hear that whisper in their heart. If you've had even just the slightest feeling while listening to this, or if you follow myself or Princeton and you've said, man, I want to carry that energy, that passion, that intensity, that enthusiasm, that optimism that they bring into the world, and you want that for yourself, well, the person that wears one watch can always know the time. The person that wears two can never be quite sure. We will give you that dial, that compass, that ability to actually navigate that space on your own, find that mental confidence, unlock that emotional certainty, to stop the mental battles, to release your emotional resistance, and be the soul in control in your life. I'm looking forward to that. Thanks for having me on today, Princeton.
Hey, thank you, brother. Thank you so much. Guys, you heard it here first. This was not our plan. This was just going to be a podcast interview, but I should have known regardless, because when we get together, it's like the fire's just set ablaze. We're really in tune to one another, and all in divine timing, right? These things happen for a reason. And being in this space, I'm not going to reiterate anything that we've already said, but you've got to get around the right people with the right information for your transformation. Everybody's not your guide. Everybody's not your coach. But if what we've said here today spoke or sparked that inner spark in you, lit you up, breathed life into you, and you're saying, okay, this is something that I require for my life. This is something that I require, not something I quote unquote need, because need comes from a space of lack. I require this. Require comes from a space of being inspired to know it's necessary. So you require this for your life. If this spoke to you to a level that you require this presence, you require this awareness of self, you require this deeper knowing, you require this deeper level of connection to your power. If that's something that your soul is yearning, that it requires right now. The reason I said 20 people is because the things that we will teach in this program, people pay us $20,000 plus to work with us one-on-one to get this information. With us together, you have more than 40 years combined in the mastery of self, the mastery of owning our power, the mastery of business, the mastery of relationships, the mastery of parenting. We have a lot of things that we can bring to you guys, and we're going to show you how to shift your entire life paradigm. And I'm excited for this, man. This is going to be so much more. We may even have to do an in-person event, maybe even a retreat. Man. But I'm going to add some post notes. And guys, all the information is going to be in the show notes for how you can reach out to Jaramy. And also, after I do this recording, I'm going to add a little more information down there for you guys. If you would like to get more information for upcoming things where you can connect with us and what we have going on, his websites, his links, all that stuff is going to be there. But we are here to empower you to thrive and be the most powerful version of you. But Jaramy, thank you so much for your time, brother. I'm so grateful. And I know you got to get back to the family, get back to the work, get back to the flow of just your daily life. So thank you for honoring us with this time, man.
Man, I'm so grateful too. And you've heard me say it before, but I'm the kind of guy that believes the universe doesn't make mistakes. I know that to be true. And ultimately, God also doesn't build any junk. So if you're listening right now and you've ever felt like maybe there's something wrong with you, or you're broken or you're just different beyond repair. It's not true. You are here on purpose. There's no accident to any of this. And if any part of your heart today whispered, this is something I require, this is something I know I want and need, like, we won't let you down. And we absolutely will offer you the keys that we have access to. I haven't arrived, and I know Princeton hasn't. We are honor roll students. I am constantly fulfilling a hunger to learn, to grow, and I will provide everything I can in alignment with Princeton to activate that in you and give you that internal sense of self-confidence, self-certainty. Reach out to us. Let us know how this impacted you. Definitely follow me on the Instagram. I haven't been extremely active over the last couple of years, but I've had a huge responsibility activating me recently to share more of my message, more of my story, and give people access to these tools. So I'm very excited. Soul Ignited, that's a good name. Soul Ignited. If you would like to be a part of this mission that just was activated live right here with me at Princeton, don't delay that calling if your heart even whispered at all. Or maybe it was a loud, clear bell went off inside and the alarms are ringing right now. Reach out right now to myself or Princeton over on Instagram. We will set up a personal conversation. This isn't going to be for everybody. If you're looking for a savior, if you're looking for a hero, you're looking for someone to stand you up and prop up with sympathy and pity, that's not us. We're going to empower you to view the problems and the challenges and the resistances in your life as a worthy adversary to find your true self and go give that to the world. So last thing I'll say, you know what? Where you are isn't who you are, and who you are doesn't matter. Remember what you are. You are the animated, electrical, you are the voltage incarnate that exists inside this meat sack light bulb. You are the light, and you have the free will to expand that light, influence yourself to provide that light to the world and the people that matter most to you here. Infinite love. Remember what you are. Shine on.
All right, guys. Thank you, guys. Man, you make it so hard. You guys see what I mean when I say we piggyback off of each other and our energy. We're just contagious for each other. But that's how you know the love is real. That's the love you're going to get to experience. But to everyone listening or watching from podcast land, we love you guys. We appreciate you guys. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Evolved Mastery podcast. Share it with a friend. Leave a review, leave a rating. Let us know what you thought, because we got so much more coming your way. So go check out some of the other episodes. If you have any questions for me, or you're looking for a guide or mentor or a coach, reach out to myself, reach out to Jaramy. All of our information will be in the show notes, but let's continue to rise. Let's continue to shine. Let's continue to be the most efficient versions of us that we were born to be. Not that we have to be, but that we get to be. Love you guys, and we'll be talking to you guys again soon.
Shine on. Bye for now.